Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Wildcard MTG and 5 more underrated and or budget cards for EDH throughout Magic's history. This time we're looking at Mirage. So Mirage has a bunch of good cards, obviously. A lot of these early sets, now we're getting into like really good card territory, a lot of well-known cards, a lot of reserve list cards is the big thing here, and I'm trying to avoid those as much as possible, but every now and then I do find one that happens to be pretty cheap on the budget side. I don't think there's one in this set, but I could be wrong. Let's get into our first card here. So first up, we have Illumination, 2 white for an interrupt. It says counter target artifact or enchantment spell. That spell's caster gains an amount of life equal to that spell's casting cost. Now the reason I think this is underrated is because white does not get very many counter spells at all. Rebuff the Wicked and Mana Tithe are the only 2 that come to mind. And the fact that this one hits artifacts or enchantments, when those are so ubiquitous in the format, I think this card's pretty darn good. It's 2 white. If you think, a lot of the blue counter spells, there's a bunch of 2 blue or 1 blue or 1 generic 1 blue. This fits right in there, and blue does the same thing where it kind of hits specific things for the counter, whether it's creature, instant, sorcery, artifact, whatever. And this kind of does the same thing, but it's in white, and white kind of needs stuff like this sometimes, so I think that's why this card's pretty darn underrated. I would definitely start throwing it in a bunch of decks, and people are going to be like, what is that? A counter spell in white? Yeah, they're going to gain life, but it's probably going to be an insignificant amount of life, if you're going to counter like a Soul Ring or an Arcane Signet or, gosh, Ashnod's Altar, it's going to be like 1, 2, 3 life. But, on the off chance they have something big and beefy like a Blightsteel Colossus and you counter that, well, it's probably a good thing. Just let them gain the 12 lives, so that way they're not coming at you with a indestructible poison counter creature. Countering it is probably the best way to go. So, and it's in white. White needs a lot of help with stuff like this. I don't believe in the color pie anyway, so give more colors, counter spells is what I'm saying. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, that is the first card on the list. Let's look at the next one. The next card we have here is Metal. It's 1 generic 1 blue for an interrupt. It says target spell which targets a single creature targets another creature of your choice instead. The new target must be legal. So if somebody were to try and Swords to Plowshares your commander or some other big creature or threat you have on the board, you can play this and be like, nah, sorry, I think I'm going to hit your commander instead. It's kind of a way to counter their spell not counter, redirect their spell to another thing and kind of get a gotcha moment where it's like, you didn't say the magic word. And 2 mana for that? I mean, come on. Yeah, it's in blue, you gotta play control, but I think that's fine. This card's kind of fun. Again, those little gotcha cards like that I think are pretty fun. Nobody's gonna be expecting this. Who is gonna sit down at a table and be like, oh, Metal, I know that card? No, nobody knows that card. I didn't even know about this card. Definitely going to look forward to playing it, because I run a lot of targeted removal, so do my friends, so it's like, if you can get like a little gotcha moment like that, why not? Our next card here is Tranquil Domain, 1 generic 1 green for an instant, destroy all enchantments. I mean, yeah, that's such a good cost for an instant speed, destroy all enchantments. Yeah, it's in green, but you gotta think with how ubiquitous enchantments are in the format. Rhystic Studies, Smothering Ties, all the enchantment creatures that are in Duskmourn, Ley Lines, the list goes on and on and on, and this thing destroys them all. Yes, you could be in a white where you have a destroy all enchantment, destroy all, blah blah blah. You know how white does. It just destroys everything. But the fact that this is such a low cost and it's at instant speed That is very good. Not only that, the new Nico makes enchantment tokens, and those are so hard to get rid of. In general, that having a card like this would basically wipe out the Nico player immediately. Obviously, they're going to try and blink Nico, but you know what I mean. Like, it's a good utility card for that reason, and the low mana cost and it being an instant speed is why I think it's pretty darn underrated. Alright, next up we have Prismatic Boon. It's an X white blue for an instant. It says X target creatures gain protection from a single color of your choice until end of turn. The reason I like this card is, yeah, it's instant speed. Unfortunately, it is in white and blue, so it kind of limits a lot of the decks you can put it in. But, you know, if you look at a lot of, like, protection from cards, they're usually only single target kind of cards. But the fact that this lets you hit multiple creatures is really well. So if you have something that's not a board wipe that's targeting a bunch of your creatures, like a damage dealer or something like that, this thing is really helpful in that. This is good in Hinata Dawn Crown because you will get the cost reduction from Hinata in the X spell. And that commander needs a lot of protection because she is a magnet for removal. So I think it's really good in that deck. Another deck would probably be like a Blink, like Kaikar, Genku, stuff like that, you know, where probably a lot of your creatures are going to be getting removed. And cost reduction cards obviously are going to help this out too. So think cost reduction kind of commanders. Alright, and our next card here is another X spell. It's Sealed Fate. It's X blue-black for sorcery this time. It says, look at the top X cards of target opponent's library. Remove one of those target cards from the game and put the rest back on top of the player's library in any order. So if you have a player who, you know, just tutored for something and you want to get rid of it, all you need to do is look at the top card and exile it. It gets exiled. That's the other crazy thing about this card that I think is really good. Exile effects, I think, are probably the best thing in the game, minus Farewell. That card's a little annoying, but that's just my opinion. But, you know, getting rid of a threat completely, I think, is the best way to go when playing the game. Destroy, you know, you can always bring stuff back from the graveyard or get it back another way. That's just the state of the format right now. There's so much stuff that interacts with getting things back in other ways, you know, all those little value engines. So I think exiling things is usually the way to go, and Sealed Fate, being a blue-black, typically don't have exile type effects, unless it's like a blink thing with blue. So that's why I think this card's pretty good. And also if you know somebody's running like a combo in their deck, you can just sink a bunch of mana into this thing, look for one of their combo pieces, and it's gone. They cannot combo out anymore. Of course, you know, sorcery speed being the only downside, but even then, that doesn't really bother me. I still think it's a pretty solid card just for that reason. And that is the number 5 pick from Mirage. Let's do a bonus card. Alright, so the bonus card for this deck is Sarraco. It's a 1 generic, 1 red instant. Target player reveals his or her hand to all players. For each blue interrupt card that player holds, he or she pays 4 life or discards that card. Obviously, this will absolutely hose a mono blue player, but if you have that player at your table and you know they're very controlly, they have a lot of counter spells, for whatever reason luckily don't have a counter spell in their hand when you play this, man, they are going to be put in a tough decision to lose 4 life for each card or discard their entire hand, basically. And I don't know, it also, just so you know, interrupt means instants. That is what it means. So it will get rid of all the instant cards in their hand, basically. So obviously they have other stuff, you know, their creatures, but a lot of control decks aren't really creature heavy, so really wouldn't even worry about that too much. Again, this is really only going to impact like a mono blue player. If they're playing multiple colors, this won't be as impactful. But I did think it was such a weird, interesting little card that I was like, well, I got to include it. Plus, also, the art on this card looks a lot like LeVar Burton, which I thought was pretty cool. So I don't know if that was intentional or not by the artist Alan Rabinowitz, but either way, it's pretty cool. It looks like him. That is 5 cards from Mirage with a bonus card. Mirage does a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of other like really cool, well-known cards from this set, very obviously. If you found any of this interesting, thank you so much for checking this out. Please follow the channel. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We will see you on the next one. Thank you so much. I've been Wildcard MTG.